Imagine stepping outside on a clear night, looking up, and seeing something that doesn't belong. A massive, glowing arc stretching from one horizon to the other, curving overhead like a bridge built by gods. Not the moon. Not clouds. Rings. Earth's rings. What would that actually mean for life on this planet? Because it wouldn't just look different. Everything would be different. Let's start with where these rings would come from. Saturn's rings are made mostly of ice and rock, the debris of a moon that got too close and was torn apart by gravity, or material that simply never formed into a moon in the first place. For Earth to have rings, something similar would have had to happen early in our planet's history. Maybe a second moon drifted too close. Maybe a large asteroid shattered in just the right way. Whatever the cause, the result would be a band of debris locked in orbit around our equator. Now here's the first thing most people don't consider. Those rings wouldn't float magically above every part of the sky equally. Because Earth rotates and the rings sit along the equatorial plane, where you see them depends entirely on where you're standing on the planet. If you live near the equator, the rings appear as a razor-thin line cutting across the sky, edge-on, barely visible. Go further north or south, and the rings tilt into view, rising up like a glowing wall on the horizon. The further toward the poles you travel, the more dramatic the angle. By the time you're at high latitudes, the rings would arch overhead in a breathtaking curve, lit by the sun, visible even in daylight as a bright pale band crossing the sky. But at the poles? The rings would sit below the horizon entirely. Invisible. Like they don't exist at all. Now think about what that does to human civilization. Historically, people have always looked to the sky for navigation, for seasons, for religion and meaning. A permanent ring structure overhead would have shaped every culture that ever existed. Ancient civilizations near the equator might have worshipped the edge-on line as a horizon deity. Northern cultures would have built their entire mythology around the great arc in the sky. The rings would have been inescapable. Every calendar, every compass, every map would reference them. Then there's light. Saturn's rings reflect enormous amounts of sunlight. Earth's rings would do the same. Depending on their density and composition, nights on Earth could be dramatically brighter, not as bright as day, but bright enough that true darkness becomes rare. Stars near the rings would be harder to see. Astronomy as a science might have developed much more slowly. Or differently. Humans might have focused entirely on the rings themselves rather than the stars behind them. Seasons would get complicated too. Earth already tilts on its axis at about 23 degrees, which gives us our seasons. Rings orbiting the equator would cast shadows on different parts of the planet depending on the time of year. During certain seasons, the rings could actually block sunlight from reaching temperate regions, cooling those areas significantly. During other times of year, the rings would reflect extra light back down, creating a kind of secondary illumination. The climate patterns we know would be entirely rewritten. Satellites and GPS? Forget them. The debris field of a real ring system would make launching anything into low to mid-Earth orbit extraordinarily dangerous. Our entire modern telecommunications infrastructure, the thing that connects every phone call, every internet signal, every weather forecast, would either not exist or would require completely different solutions. The space age might have never happened, or it would have taken a radically different path. What about tides? Rings don't have nearly the mass of a moon, so tidal effects would remain mostly unchanged. The moon still does its job. But the psychological and cultural weight of having rings would be immense. The moon already inspired enough mythology. Add a ring system and the night sky becomes a cathedral. Here's the strange and beautiful truth. Earth with rings would be a more dramatic, more complicated, more awe-inspiring world. The sky would never let you forget that you live on something extraordinary. Every child growing up under those arcs would know, instinctively, that they live on a planet in space. Not just in a country, not just on a continent. On a world. And maybe that one shift in perspective would have changed everything about how humanity sees itself. The cosmos didn't give us rings. But it gave us the imagination to wonder what if.